I have my green and yellow Oregon pin on my collar today because there is somebody, I'm not going to mention any names, that comes in my comment section on a near weekly basis and harasses me for being a Ducks fan. Well, that's for you, and I will see most of people who live in the Midwest November 2nd in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, and thank you for tuning back into St. Andrew TV, a cure for your Monday blues. I'm your host, Andrew, and today we are doing something that I have taken a bit of a hiatus from, and that is we are going to reshape a hat. This hat, more specifically, and we are going to reshape this hat, more specifically, into the hat that you see in the 1982 film, The Thing, that Kurt Russell wears. Now, before we get into crafting Daddy's Kurt Russell's hat, I do have to specify that this hat, when it gets to its raw form, will not be the exact dimensions of the hat you see in the film. On the brim, we are missing about 3/4 of an inch. It's a normal 5-inch brim in the film. But I do believe the crown will be 6 inches when it gets to that normal open top. One in the film you see, I do believe, is 7. Do not quote me on that. Regardless, I have my blueprint over here, so if you see me continuously checking to my left here, that is what I'm looking at. We are going for the Montana pinch and 4 upturned sides on the brim. And if you follow me along, I'm going to show you how to do that. So as we begin, I'm going to probably increase the volume of my voice because we have our steamer here. That's hot. And everybody should buckle up because it's about to get steamy. It's like me. Now for the time being, I'm going to face it away because it does need to heat up, even though it was incredibly hot when I touched it originally. But I want you to see my pretty face as I'm telling you what these steps are in reshaping a hat. The first thing we're going to do, and please ignore that because it's going to make noise as it heats up, is we are going to take the lining out of this beautiful 5X beaver fur felt hat by Reshaped. And as we pull all this out, you will notice that a very small bit of adhesive, I'm assuming it's something like from a glue gun, is the only thing that's holding this satin lining in there. And if you would like for more St. Andrew TV trivia, I wear a 7 3/8 long oval, which is precisely why I bought this hat. So you can see your satin lining should just pop out. And if you can see in there, all that is some sort of hot glue that is in there that keeps your satin lining in place. And then you can fold your leather hat band back up, and it covers up all the ugly spaces like that. That is the first thing you do when you shape hats. You don't want to shape the hat with the satin lining in there. That gives you all the access to get your hands in there, push up parts that you don't want to be dented, like essentially everything on this hat, and it allows you to, fix mistakes easily. So after the satin lining is removed from the hat, the next step is to remove all the extra pieces that might be on the hat. Hair, dirt, dust, wood shavings, you name it. We're going to take a little piece of packing tape and just go over the hat and make sure it is clear of any debris. And that ensures that nothing gets impacted into the fur fibers as they expand when you apply the moist heat. Don't worry about bending the hat in any particular way. You're about to completely reshape it, so don't be too worried that you're going to warp something out of place. The nice thing about fur felt and wood is it never really dies as long as you don't cut it. You could use a lint roller as well. As with a lot of hat reshaping, you're going to want to get the hat to its base form. The creases and the dents that you see in the crown are not a base form, that would be an open top. And obviously with a Montana pinch, it derives from an open top, and then you add the pinches where you need to add the pinches. And we will get to the Montana pinch because centering the hat is the biggest bear of the day. All you do is just apply your steam just like this. I am just going to get it nice and hot. Make sure that moisture is getting in there to break up the fibers of the fur. And pretty soon you will feel the heat starting to come from inside the hat. That's all we are doing right now, is we are going to try and get it to an open crown. And then we will go from there to what we want our crown to ultimately look like. Took me about 1 minute, but you can see the dents on the side of the hat are now gone. Now we'll have to work on the crease on the top. So we got the dent and the crease out for the most part, but you are really going to want to round it because you don't want it to retake the shape it's been in for, I'm assuming, a couple years. It means I bought it at an antique mall and I don't know how long it sat there. So that's exactly what we're going to do here in the next couple minutes, is just try to round the crown up, and that way it looks more uniform to an open crown, and then we can start adding the pinches for the Montana peak. This is also precisely why you take the satin lining out, because you can see little imperfections along the hat. You can just run your fingers across them and give a nice little swipe, and everything starts to round itself out. It looks really good, and like you can see, there's a little dent right there that I'm going to heat up and go on the inside of the hat here and straighten out a little bit, round it out, make it look like an open top, and then we'll take a measurement to see how tall this crown actually is. There is that problematic section. We're just going to run our finger through there and flatten everything out, or I guess round everything out. You can see another one right here. I apologize if the steam is in my face, but you can see another one right on the top of the crown there, and we're going to buff that one out as well. As I'm working on this, anybody else play MLB The Show? I'm a center fielder for the Rockies. Denver is my home and I will never leave. This is an important thing to note before I forget. Please allow me to elaborate, because this part is pretty critical. Try not to send the steam to the inside of the hat. You can make the mistake of not paying too much attention, and this steam will really warp that leather band and really start to screw up the sizing of the hat, because it'll start coming together like that. You might have a hat that is about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch smaller if that leather band on the inside starts to scrunch up because of that steam. So try to keep all the heat, all the wet heat, on the outside of the hat. Otherwise you could damage the hat beyond repair. I would imagine getting a new band in here, a new sweat band in here, would cost you a pretty penny, because they would have to essentially deconstruct the hat to put it back in there. So keep all the heat on the outside. It is meant for the elements to hit it and get through all of the mortar fire that you would face, that nature would throw at you in any given day. So it's meant for this, but that leather is not. Oh, that came out really round. Still good. Might lose a step, but you never lose your touch. Alright, I turned the steam off for a second to show you what you should be working with when you're about to work on the crown. See how it is a perfect round open top? That is going to be what you're looking for when you start working on said crown. You don't want anything to resort back into what shape it was in. you really want to get in there and work it. You really want to get in there and make sure that every crease, dent, whatever was on the crown is worked out completely. That will allow you to work on the crown without anything trying to shape back into what it was. Anything, any unforeseen crease that you didn't see, you want to work it out to where it's a nice open top, just like so. This will be the part where I measure the crown to give you an idea of the downsizing that we're doing to this kind of style. Oh, it's a 7 1/4. That's a tall ass crown is what it is. So the only thing that's really getting the downsize here is the brim. Now that I'm looking at it, that is a tall crown. However, the brim is the only thing that is smaller than what you see in the movie, but the crown is right on brand. If I do remember it being a 7-inch crown in the film, I do believe I looked this hat up before, but don't quote me on it, but I think the brim's the only thing getting the haircut here. That and me, I guess. So we're gonna fire up the steamer and we are going to work on the creasing of the hat, or the Montana pinch, Montana peak, whatever you'd like to call it. This is the most challenging part because now you have to center up the front of your pinch with the front of the hat. And trust me, if you are an eighth of an inch off in either direction, you will notice it almost instantly. And with this hat, from what I'm looking at it, it's on the top center of the hat, and it is very, very discreet. There is not much to it, so I'm not going to jam my fingers in there and really pinch. I'm probably just going to set my fingers in here like so and give it a little push, and I will do the same to the back, and then we will make sure that everything is uniform, where every dent is the same as the other, and we'll go around and just make sure. This is going to be the most time-consuming of our day today, so please bear with me because I'm probably going to be working at this for about 30 to 45 minutes. You'll probably see about 5 minutes of it, and I will also try to move the steam before I talk so I don't look like I'm in an 80s hair metal show. So with the Montana peak or the Montana pinch, bring your crease, or I guess your pinch, up to the top of the hat like that. That'll help you center up the back now. If you work off one isolated location, act like you're going to put a pin right in the top of the hat. That will help you center up the front and center up the back without centering up two sides. You're only centering up the front, and with your little hypothetical pin here, you can center up the back as well. So I'm going to definitely work off this, what I see when I heat up the back, and do this. Try to replicate the same pinch that I did up here on the back, and then after that we will make sure everything looks the same as every other dent. You can see that it wanted to collapse on the top where we put that hypothetical pin, and that's why you remove the satin lining. It allowed me to put my finger up there to stabilize the crown of the hat from falling in like that. We don't want it to look like that. That would not be ideal, but this is where you start to make your little X up top, and you want everything to kind of form together like so. It is important to note when you shape hats or you see certain hat shapes, geographical location played a big part in that, and having dents in your hat in a windy area. Now down here in the American Southwest, you will see more telescopic crowns, bigger crowns that is, maybe less dense, because we don't get a lot of wind down here in the valley, but we get a lot of sun. And that's why you will see flatter, bigger brims down here than you'll see in northern states, because you don't have to fight with the cold, but you do have to fight with the sunlight. So I've noticed on our little X here that we've made, that's at least what you're going for, it has gotten a little too skinny, and that means the dents have protruded into the crown, the interior of the crown too much. We want to fatten up that X, for lack of a better term. So I'm going to run my fingers through the inside and give it less prominence, at least in the dent portion, and that in turn will widen up this little X. I'm looking at the picture over here. I want to match that pretty perfectly, and I think I went a little overboard with the dents that I've made. So we're just going to run our fingers through the creases here and kind of widen everything out, just like I'm doing here. I'm going to try to give you guys a better view of that, to the best of my abilities, that is. You can see right there, I'm kind of nudging where I pinched it originally. And I got one more. It looks like it dried off a little bit. And that's all you're doing. You're just going through your original pinch lines here and fattening up the X, I suppose. We'll call it that because that's layman's terms. Alright, so here is one of the instances where I love the look of a Montana crease, pinch, lemon squeeze, or whatever you want to call it. However, I don't inherently love making them because they are a lot of work, because there's a lot of moving parts that you have to get accurate. And if you do this at home, just know that I'm on minute probably 25 or 30 of working this crown, and I still see imperfections with it. And you're gonna have to, if you're detail oriented like me or a perfectionist like me, you're about halfway there. You want to make sure that this is perfect, because otherwise I don't think it does it justice. I don't think it looks right. So you're gonna see me through the miscellaneous continuation of filming here, keep working on this until I get it roughly identical to what I have over to my left. I forgot I'm wearing this dumb fuck top hat too. I look like Mr. Poopy Butthole. It's coming together. Here's a fun fact for everybody watching at home. The hat that OB wears in The Hateful Eight, or I guess the entire outfit, is an exact replica of what Kurt Russell wore in The Thing, because Tarantino has come out and explicitly said that that movie is a mixture of The Thing and The Exorcist. But there's a fun fact for you. If you look at OB's outfit and then you go back and watch The Thing with Kurt Russell, it's the same outfit. I don't know if that's something everybody wants to hear, but I just know that off the top of my head. I don't know if it's going to get much better than this. That's really come out really nice. Well, here's the front of the hat right here. Here's the side. Here's the back. Here's the other side. Everything looks pretty uniform, at least from what I can see. Just took out my tailor's tape here, and to the bottom of each dent is 4.5 inches, and it is like that on every dent in this hat, which means that the top, for the most part, is complete. Now, when you shape a hat, always make it a little bit more exaggerated, because remember, you are going to wear this and it will work itself out. So it will look a tad more rigid than, say, the picture that I showed at the start of the video, but it will work itself out. That is precisely why it looks a little bit more contoured to what shape we're going after. Now, with that being said, we are going to move on to the brim, and this is the easy part. We just got done with the extremely hard part that took shorter than expected, but it still took a long time. It probably took over 70% of how much film is on the camera right now. But the brim is very simple. The brim is an upturn on every side, front, back, left, right. And all you do is the same thing that you've done with the crown. You are going to heat it up with the moist heat, and you are going to start shaping it. it is good to get it to a flat state before you do anything else. Now there are some tricky parts to it because when you do upturns with every part of the brim, you're going to start getting some dips and it might become whopper jawed a little bit, but this is definitely the easier of the two parts of this. So let's fire this up. This is an instance, as long as you are aware of where that steam's hitting the hat, you can go to the underside of your brim here to flatten it out. Just make sure it doesn't come in contact with that leather sweatband. As I said earlier, it will ruin it pretty quick. So you're going to want to be extra careful if you do it like this, but it definitely speeds up the process. Ideally, you don't want to touch, like I just did there, touch the fur to the face of whatever steam or wherever your steam's coming from. You can burn the hat. You don't want to do that. Burning the hat would not be ideal, especially means you've already invested about an hour into this project. Unless it's a Washington or Oregon State hat, then you can burn it. Burn that hat. All right, here is the final descent into what we are going for. We have our hat brim in a more natural shape. It is flat. Obviously, there's some imperfections in it right now, but we are going to work through it as we go along. It doesn't have to be perfect, unlike the crown here. So we're going to start with the front of the brim and curve it up. An upturned brim, that's exactly what it means. We're going to do the same on the side, same on the back, same on the other side. However, the front is going to be the most prominent. I'm just looking at the picture here. It looks like the sides and the back are a little less upturned than the front. So we'll start with the most upturned and go from there. Here is an instance where you're going to want to take your upturn right here and line it up with the front of your pinch, like this. And don't be gentle with it. You can definitely manipulate it to where you want it to be. So it's going to look something like that. And hold it there for a second because it is still warm, it is still wet. And let it sit there for a second. Even curl it back if you need to make sure it is upturned. I have to move it over here so it doesn't hit the steam anymore, but that is exactly what you're looking for. And now we will move on to the sides. This is going to be the, like I said, the most exaggerated fold. And we'll move on to the sides and go from there. An important thing to note, like I said earlier, I don't know if you caught it, but when you do the upturn on every side of the hat, the other sides are going to take note and, you're going to go against your own progress. So when you do the side here, you're going to have to hold the side and come up with the front like so. And that's going to ensure that you get something that looks like Daddy's hat, Kurt Russell's hat from the thing. A little trick to what I'm doing right here is any moisture that's coming up for the other side here, I'm keeping my thumb on the front to make sure it stays in the shape that I want it to, so it's not falling and I have to go back to it later. Same on this side. Bring it up to that pinch. You can see right there. Hold it for a second because it is still warm, it is still wet, and it is still malleable. Last but not least, we are doing the back. And how I do the back is I'll grab both of the upturns on the side and just hit it with the steam. This is our final descent before we put the lining back into it. And then we are done. And then you guys can go on with your day after this 35-minute video that I'm about to make. So this one's interesting for the fact that you're going to have both your hands on the side of the hat here, and I'm just going to use the table in front of me to give it that slight upturn like the one I'm looking at currently and the one that you saw earlier in the video. And the nice part is there is a ribbon on the inside of the hat that lines you up, so you know what's centered. Now remember, you do want this exaggerated because when you wear it, it will start to become fitted to your head, and the brim will want to naturally take its own shape, and that will ensure that everything looks the way that you want it to. Fur is never dead after all, so you can wear this around and you will break in a hat, so to speak. You break in hats. When you get a new hat, it might not fit you to a T just yet. Just give it a little bit of time. I had to step out and use the Albano and let this dry a little bit. You're not going to want to put the lining back in it right away. You're going to want to let it air out a little bit. And don't put the lining in directly after you've done shaping it. However, for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you how to reattach the lining, because it is my due diligence to show you how to reshape a hat from step one to the final step, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. However, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because the crown is still very, very valuable, and it can be influenced if I hit it against the wood or I drop it, so I'll have to take it step by step. And all you will need for this next portion of reshaping your hat is a hot glue gun and a little bit of a finer touch. But don't worry, not too fine a touch. Alright, so we are going to put the satin lining back in our hat here. And you're just going to bring your leather sweatband up like so, and place your satin lining back in the way that you found it, how it's supposed to be in the hat. So it looks something like that. And all you are going to do is periodically, you are going to go around and lift some of that satin lining up, and you are going to place a little dab of hot glue in it, not so much that it drowns the hat, but enough where the satin lining has something to stick to on the fur felt. We are just going to take this first piece here. I'm going to pull this back a little bit, like so. It's going to be a little bit more exaggerated so you can see what I'm doing, but you are going to do something like that. A little dab of hot glue, and you are going to take your lining and find the outside and just push it up against the side of the hat. And you are going to do that all the way around the hat, about every 3 or 4 inches, give or take, and then you're going to put your leather headband back down. Alright, so I've completed that, and now I'm just flipping the leather hat band back to where it was. And this next step is incredibly important, and please do not forget to do this step. All the little strings of hot glue that you have just created by pulling the hot glue gun out of the hat need to be removed. They look like little spider webs. The reason why we do that is if you were ever have the inclination to reshape this hat again, if there is hot glue on it, that steam will activate that hot glue and it will get into the fibers of the fur felt. And that will ruin your hat. And there you have it. We have just recreated the hat that you see in the 1982 film The Thing, worn by Kurt Russell. We have a 7-inch Montana peak crown, and we have about 3/4 of an inch left on the brim that we didn't use because his in the movie is a 5-inch brim, ours is 4 1/4. So we just did the Arizona variation of it, but as a 5X brown fur felt hat. I hope you guys enjoyed the journey today of crafting and reshaping your own hat. And that opens up the door to the opportunity of you going to yard sales, antiques, malls, whatever have you, and finding a hat that fits in a color you like. Those are the only 2 things you need to, start reshaping your own hats. So if it fits and it's a color you like, take it home and you can come back to this video and reshape however you so choose. I just happen to have a brown hat that matched the one from that film that I happen to very much enjoy, and I wanted something sort of an exact replica with the exception of the chin strap and the big leather band. I guess that's for another video. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed today's video, or leave me a comment stating what you liked, or tell me what I should do next. I have a Patreon that is linked down in the description and is appearing at the bottom of your screen right in front of you. I am only community funded, and if you would like to continue to support the content that you see on St. Andrew TV, please feel free to check out the Patreon. There are some photos and some behind the scenes stuff over there for patrons that donate however much per month. But that is only if your means allow you to do so. Feel no obligation. The content on YouTube will forever remain free. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed as of late, but for those of you who have come across this video or this channel, maybe because you like Wild West content, maybe you just wanted to learn how to reshape a hat. Or maybe you saw Daddy in the thumbnail and just had to click on it. Daddy being Kurt Russell and not yours truly. Think about hitting that subscribe button, because you're a daisy if you do.